Hello and welcome to episode number 3 of Pearl and Plume podcast, a knitting and crafting podcast with a little bit of ambient noise from the local traffic and thrown in, and also some talk about my chickens and whatever else I happen to be doing. So it is late July in western Massachusetts. It's beautiful. We've had a very hot summer, like many places have, and yet I haven't lost the love of knitting. So I have a few things to show you that I finished. A couple small items. And so one of them is living in my chicken bag that my mother made for me. This adorable chicken fabric. It's one of those great knitting bags that if you choose to, you can actually walk along and do some, for me it would have to be stockinette stitch while you're using it, walking in the park. So this project took me about a day and a half, and hold on a second, let me grab my drink. Oh yeah, what am I drinking? I'm drinking a gin and tonic because it's after 4 on a Sunday. It's cocktail hour on the weekend. It's basically a vacation, and so so that's what we do if we want to. Okay, so this is a project called the Hat Danna by Byron Handmade or Byron Handmade. It's Bayron Handmade. She has just a few projects, but they are beautiful. She has a sweater that was recently I believe in Lina or Pom Pom Quarterly. I will check that out and maybe I'll get that in the down bar below since I cannot seem to get titles in. I will also try to get help from one of my teenagers to put the titles in. I can bake bread, I can garden, grow vegetables, I can raise chickens and children, but I struggle with the technology. Anyway, this is a really fabulous project. It was quick. It fulfills my desire to support more people of color designers, and it's great if you have 200 yards of worsted weight, or she also has a fingering weight version. If you have that lying around, then it's a great way to use up scraps. Great gift knitting. I think I'm probably going to keep this one for myself because I love it so much, but I'm planning on making more. So this is how you would wear it as a cowl, and so cute. I can imagine this with a jean jacket. I can imagine this with pretty much everything I wear. I chose this fabulous, and it has these little tassels here that I love. Oops, a little bit of yarn there. You can see I've got some bumps on this side where I messed up the slip stitch binding. I don't really care. I actually love the little imperfections that come from making mistakes. Probably I've trained myself to love them, but that's okay. So I just love this. I think it is such a great design. It's her pattern is so beautifully made. It's got many pages, video tutorial links. She just makes it so easy to figure out. So I really think that even if you're a beginner and you haven't made a cable yet, this is a cable here, it's really doable. So she also, it's called the Hat Danna because you can wear it, to get this right, you can kind of wear it like this, which if I have my hair down probably looks better. In the winter I could see maybe doing this, but I actually I made it to wear it as a cowl because I just think it is so lovely. And yes, it was super quick to make. And the other great thing about it is it's one of those patterns that after you actually start from the bottom up. After you've done a few rows, it is incredibly intuitive. You can kind of just see what you've already done, and it makes it fairly easy. That said, because I'm me and I do make mistakes pretty easily, I was knitting it yesterday while I was working, throwing a garage sale or a yard sale with my sister and my mom, and so it's kind of multitasking, and I did make some mistakes that I actually tinked back. I believe that's the word, when you undo stitch by stitch to fix them. But I did make a couple other mistakes that I was able to just live with. Love it. The Hat Danna pattern by Byron, or Byron, handmade. Thanks. Great. Love it. Definitely making more. The other thing I finished is an accessory for my little niece who's going to be born in November, and I'm so excited to have a niece. I have nieces and nephews from my Ferrari family, but you know, we had a divorce, and even though they're still my family, it's not quite the same. I don't get to see them very much. And so this is my brother's first baby with his wonderful partner whom we love so much, and she's gonna be spoiled because the Carlisle family in general is super tight, and the Carlisle women have lots of love to bestow on the children. So it's kind of exciting. Anyway, I'm starting to knit some things for this baby, and I made a hat. I made the Antler Hat by Tin Can Knits. And I realized that I forgot to tell you what yarn I made this with. And this is Cascade 220 Heathers in the, I don't know the name of this, it's like a kind of ochre mustard color in the Cascade 220. This is not Cascade 220. It is Classic Elite Big Wool or something like that. Oh man, I'll put that info down there. Anyway, this is the Antler Hat, and this is in a free pattern from Tin Can Knits. And Tin Can Knits, if you don't know of them, you really need to check out their website. They have some amazing free patterns, and they have a whole collection of what they call I think they call it their Simple Collection, and it is just this fabulous collection, big B, of patterns that are perfect for beginners, but they're also really beautiful. There's the flax sweater, the flax light sweater, a bunch of hats. I don't know if the Antler Hat is in the Simple Collection. It does have a fairly substantial, beautiful cable design going all the way around it. I absolutely love this cable, and if you love this cable, you should knit this hat. There's also a sweater, the Antler Sweater, which has this particular kind of cable going all the way around it. It is gorgeous. This is, I want to say the pattern is designed for Aran weight yarn. I used worsted, I think this is worsted, and it worked out just fine. My only thought was, is this going to be too itchy for the baby? It is a washable wool, so it's super wash, and I'm not it's not super itchy. It's not itchy at all for me, but anyway, I made it. I'm gonna make more hats for the baby anyway. It was so much fun, and I do love this chunky, gorgeous cable. I'm gonna hold it up there so you can see. Oh, and this is the one I made a mistake on. You can see it goes down. It goes there. Anyway, and it shouldn't. That's okay. That's fine. I love to point out my mistakes like all knitters. I really don't know why we do that. I don't think anyone would notice them. Well, that's fine. So those are my finished objects. And I am going to put on a sweater that I made, and then I'm going to put on another sweater that I made. I made these sweaters last year, the year before. I finished one of them last year. The other one I made the year before. I'm putting my hair up. This is ridiculous. I wanted to wear it down to look professional or something like that. That just isn't working for me. So these sweaters have a bit of a story with them that I will tell you. And they're a little wrinkled. I did wash them and put them away, but they've been folded up, and they've got some wrinkles on them. Sometimes what I do when I'm about to wear a sweater that's been folded and that might have some creases is I spray it with water. It has some essential oils in it, so it smells good, and then it can eventually kind of get some of the creases out. So you're going to notice that this sweater doesn't fit perfectly, but I'm okay because I love it so much. And honestly, part of the reason it doesn't fit perfectly is I've gotten a little bit curvier. My other problem is I don't ever know. Okay, here we go. This is the Birkin Sweater by Caitlin Hunter of Boylan Knitworks. Boylan Knitwork? Yeah, Boylan Knitworks. And it is named after Jane Birkin. And as you can see, there. I mean, honestly, if it wasn't so hot and sweaty, it would have been easier to get this on. Here it is. It is not, I'm falling. It's all good. It is not made exactly the way it was designed, because it technically should not have this color work panel down the front. It shouldn't be gapping here at all. This color work panel, it shouldn't be stretching here. Whatever. I've gotten stronger, to be honest. I've been lifting weights, so my arms are bigger. Not to brag. So I made this sweater the way it was designed, without this beautiful colorwork panel down the front. It was just a yoke. But it was really tight and pulling on the colorwork because I made a mistake with the colorwork. I just should have probably gone up 2 needle sizes, because I am a tight colorwork knitter, which, especially when you get 3 different color strands going in, if it's 2, I tend to be just fine, but with 3, it gets really tight. And honestly, this was my second colorwork sweater, so I'm not feeling too bad about it. I'm gonna take this off now because it's really hot. So, and now it's stuck to my earring. It's okay. So anyway, my dear friend Laura came to the rescue. She steeked it, meaning she sewed 2 parallel lines up the center, cut it, and was like, sew some pick up some stitches and knit some button bands on that. Well, I did that and it wasn't quite right. And if you do follow me on Instagram, which you probably do since you're probably my family members, you can look back on the stories and see how it looked then. I basically sewed this really wide band going around the back and down the front. It was ribbed. It looked very pretty, but it wasn't fitting. It was almost like a shrug style, and it just wasn't exactly what I wanted, or even close to exactly what I wanted. So then Laura said, well, how about I take this motif and I just go down the center? And that's what she did. And honestly, it's still not perfect. I have to say, I love it. I loved the colors I chose for this sweater so much. I really didn't want to just say goodbye. And, so I'm not doing anything else with it. I'm just going to occasionally wear it, and it's not going to fit perfectly. Although I have to say, right now, it's because I'm so sweaty. If I were to dampen this and put it on, eventually it would be just fine. Or much better anyway. So I wear this sweater. I wear it even though it kind of puckers up here and I have to pull it down, because I love it. I'm not done. I'm going to make another one, probably with very similar colors, because I just love this brown with these colors. We'll see. So, meanwhile, when I started making this sweater, my friend Laura was like, oh my God, I love that sweater. I'm going to make one for myself. She picked different colors of the same wool. It's Cascade fingering weight. They have great range of colors, and it's pretty affordable yarn. So she started making one. She tried her yoke on before she separated for the sleeves, or maybe just after she separated for the sleeves and realized her yoke was too tight. But being Laura and being able to knit a sweater in like 3 days or less, or maybe 1 day, depending on the weight of the yarn, she just said, hey, do you want this extra Birkin yoke? To which I very quickly replied, yes, give it to me. Where is it? I want it now. Because even though I don't love Sleeve Island, I love sweaters. So she gave it to me. And thus, the second Birkin was born. And that's this one. You will see the yoke fits a bit better. This is how it was designed to fit. Now, the Birkin in... the design's actually, I think, supposed to have a little more positive ease, but I want a good balance of positive ease and negative ease in my closet, and at the time I'd already made some larger sweaters, so I didn't want... this does have some positive ease, but not as much as I think the pattern was designed for. So I made 3/4 length sleeves, and it's almost kind of a cropped length. I'm going to just pull my shorts down here, step back. So here we go. Yeah, the sleeves are a little loose here. They're tighter in the brown one. And it's a bit of, it's not, I wouldn't say it's fully cropped. It hits right at the hip. But I do generally wear it with a tank top that's gonna kind of sit below it. Lovely, lovely sweater. I'm a real fan of botanical motifs in yoke sweaters. I'm a real fan of yoke sweaters with color work and floral and leaf motifs. It tends to be what I go for. I have a few sweaters right now that I'm thinking of that are just, they're in the queue. They're gonna happen this winter. And one of them is called Floral Sake, I think. And it has these giant roses going all the way around. Anyway, so this is the Birkin 2.0. Here's the first one. I still don't have the exact, her exact vision for the Birkin, but I'm kind of spoiled with Birkins at this point, I would say. And that's fine with me. So I'm going to take this off now because, again, it's July. And it is really, really warm. You girls are being so quiet. I'm really proud of you. It's because they're all taking a dust bath right now. Well, almost all of them. Chilling. Okay, so those are all my finished objects to show for you, and we're a little bit of a cheat, but I'm going to be doing that until you see all the sweaters I've made. So we have some time before I don't have anything left. Hopefully that will never happen because I keep churning them out. So yeah. Next, we will look at my FOs. I'm not going to mention, whatever, I'll show you. I think I did make a little bit of progress on the coloring cardigan that I keep bringing up. I haven't picked it up in a little while. I'm very close to, it's kind of smushed together on the needles. I am always dropping stitches when I'm very close to separating for the sleeves. In fact, I'm supposed to, but I'm kind of nervous because to me it looks not quite ready for that. So here it is. You can see a little bit of the, what is that called? The seaming there, the raglan seaming. So I have made a little bit of progress, and I would like to get to the point where it's just stockinette stitched straight down. And I could do that. I could start that this week. I could start that tonight if I wanted to, but we'll see. Hipster shawl. So the coloring cardigan is by Katrine Schneider. This is all in the last few episodes. The hipster shawl I've also made some progress on. Not a ton. I'm not super inspired to knit with a woolly part alpaca shawl right now, but boy, I do like this color. As you can tell, I'm wearing the same color in like a tank top. So I'm about to hit another stint of this part of the pattern where you're like wrapping those stitches. And then after that, it's just a big band of garter stitch. So it's pretty quick. But I've been kind of trying to finish a couple little projects in the meantime. So those are two of my works in progress. And then I have my other, which I have made some good progress on. And if you follow me on Instagram, you will have seen that. This is my Sunset Highway sweater by Caitlin Hunter, Boylan Knitworks. And as you can see, I finished the body. I can't remember if I'd finished the body last time. I don't think I had. And I am onto one of the sleeves. Here we go. And I'm about getting close to the elbow there. I'm going to do full-length sleeves with this, but I am not going to do the color work band that she has you do around the elbow, where you basically mimic this loop, no, this one on the bottom and the top, and then you have a band of color inside. I am playing a bit of yarn chicken. I have to use up 2 of my hand-dyed skeins for the sleeves. I'm sure I have enough, but one, I don't know how much I have, and I kind of want to be thoughtful about using it. And 2, I don't even love that bit of color work there. So I think what I'm going to do is save it for the end. I'm going to get past the elbow and then do one of the wavy lines in the pattern, and then just have the bottom and the cuff be an alternate color. And that way I'm sure that I'll have more than enough of this yarn to make it there. I am using 2 skeins of my hand-dyed yarn and alternating skeins sometimes every row, sometimes every 2 or 3 rows, kind of whatever I feel like doing actually. I alternated every row with my sweater, and I never looked up the proper way to do that, and what I noticed is, this is the back of the sweater. I think after blocking it will help, but if you can see, you can kind of see a bit of a seam here. I mean, it's not a seam on the outside, but on the inside, it's where I would switch skeins. Because I basically have 2 skeins going at the same time, kind of like I'd be doing color work. And if you can even see, well, I can tell that this skein kind of has more darker speckles in it and some darker tonal puddles, whereas this one's a tiny bit lighter, so I knew for sure I really needed to alternate them. But I don't think it's necessary to alternate every row even. So anyway, with the sleeves, I really don't want that seam, so I'm trying to alternate fewer times. But yeah, this is moving along. I really ignored it for a couple days so I could make the hat and the cowl. Boy, isn't that funny? I've got like purple and yellow going on here. I like those colors. Well, I really like golden colors, and I do love purple, but it especially goes well with the golden colors. Okay, so those are all my works in progress and all my finished objects for today. I didn't bring my Zweig sweater out. I did work on over dyeing those parts of the body that looked like they were a little too light for me. Only I was lazy. I didn't look in my dyeing notebook to see exactly what colors, because I was sure it was just navy, and it turns out I think the color is a little bit more complicated than that. So I'm going to be dyeing yarn this week. I'm dyeing some yarn as a gift for a good friend, and I'm also dyeing yarn for a project for myself. And I will probably just, on the day that I'm dyeing, I will work on the Zweig to make sure that navy gets subdued a bit, or the white spots on the navy background get subdued a bit, because it didn't work the first time. So yeah, I definitely at some point want to link to projects that I'm looking forward to knitting. I talked about some in the last podcast. I hope to dye some yarn next week or this coming week for my ranunculus. I have some fingering weight yarn that I'm interested in using, but I actually think I want to do a different color. And I also purchased some mohair that I'm going to dye, because I do love mohair, and I want to hold it with a strand of fingering weight for the ranunculus. I'm excited about that. And another thing I wanted to talk about in the podcast was knitting tips, things that I've learned along the way. And believe me, I have probably intermediate skills, but in many ways I'm a beginner, and I'm mostly, well, kind of self-taught, and then my friend Laura has taught me a lot, and the internet has really helped. One thing Laura helped me with I don't remember what project it was. I kept making mistakes. I thought I understood the pattern. I thought I'd kind of memorized it, and that I could, I'm always knitting while I'm doing something else, and I thought, oh, I got this. Well, what she counseled me to do was to make I don't have it with me. I meant to. Was to make a knitting chart. Basically, write out the pattern steps with check boxes near them, and just check it off as you do it. So there are often repeats. For instance, for this pattern, there's these 2 You have to do this one round and then this, round number whatever and round number the next one. And then every six of those rounds, you have to do a different thing. And you could think to yourself, well, I know what I have to do. I'm not going to keep track, but that's when you make a mistake. So basically, I just handwrite it out. And I'll even put boxes next to it. Like if I have to do it 5 times, I'll put 5 boxes. And that has really, oh my God, excuse me. That has really made a big difference. The other thing that's been helpful is I download patterns to my phone to iBook. Is it iBooks or just books? And it's just books, but I have an iPhone. And that way, if I forget a pattern, I don't have it with me. I bring my knitting everywhere, even if I'm positive I won't have an opportunity to knit. You just never know. I always have it with me. And then I also, if I happen upon a yarn store, I also have the patterns with me as well. That's kind of obvious, but the making the charts has been super helpful. The other thing, which is probably obvious for many people, but not, it wasn't for me, so I'm sure someone out there could find this useful, is if you really look at what you're making before you get too into it, that understanding can kind of help you not make mistakes. So for instance, I was making this hat, and at the beginning of the pattern, and I love their patterns, and I think their pattern writing is phenomenal. I happen to be someone who struggles with a little bit with attention and executive functioning sometimes, so I missed something at the beginning of it. Also, I can be kind of arrogant and think, oh my God, I've got this, no worries. Well, I don't know what, I should know better. So there was one little detail that was at the top of the pattern that said, for every blah, 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 in between every whatever, you have to purl 3 times or something. And then it wasn't in the list of the directions. It was in the beginning, so everyone should know. Well, I didn't pay attention to that, and so I omitted that and kept wondering, why does this look so crazy? So I made myself a checklist. And I added that detail to every step so that I wouldn't have to remember it. It was right there and I would just check it off. Also, when I read the pattern and I looked at the picture of the sweater, that lighting is going crazy. Sun is dappling through the trees. I'm going to move where I'm sitting so you can see me. When I look at and this is a free pattern, so I feel like I can talk at some detail about this because you can just really go online and find it. I'm not giving anything away because it's free. So I see that between the cable stitches, there are purl stitches here. Look at the object and notice those things. Oh yeah, so there's a cable, and then between the cable, there's purling, and then there's the cable. I don't know, it makes sense to do. If you're someone like me who is maybe I'm not a detail person, I'm more of a forest rather than a tree person, and so I have to be kind of explicit about taking those steps to help myself be successful in knitting. So those are my knitting tips for the day. I also wanted to talk about something that is really an important topic everywhere, but it's been highlighted this year in the crafting community, and that is bias and privilege and racism. And as a white person who I have an immense amount of privilege, and I feel lucky that feel fortunate that I was drawn to a career as an educator because it gives me a place to make a difference and to work on becoming a better person, not just someone who's not racist, but someone who actively works against racism, because I can create I work towards creating a classroom and a school district that promotes welcoming all people and promotes actively working on awareness of your own biases and privilege and, anti-bullying has been really a big part of social emotional curriculum in schools for a few years now, and I feel like racism needs to come up to that level. And as a teacher, I don't need anyone's permission to make that a part of my everyday, not even just the curriculum, but a way of being at school. Not only making kids of color comfortable and helping them feel that they are seen and reflected in the classrooms and in the school, but helping kids, white students, understand their privilege and understand their role in anti-racism work and being part of that community. I hope that makes sense. I feel lucky because I think that it is very easy as a privileged person to ignore all of these things. We're all busy. We all have hardships. I'm also a parent. And so it's the daily work that's important and impactful. And I don't have to go, I do go to protests, but I always wonder how much impact is this having, But I know in my school and in my classroom, that's really impactful. And I also, even though I have 9 followers at this point, I also feel like it's important on a podcast. And so it became really clear in the crafting community this year, and I'm not going to go into all that happened. It's very easy to find out if you don't know about it, that there's a lot of racism and bias in the crafting community, like there is everywhere. And it's probably the only silver lining of having our current president is that it became very obvious and hard to ignore all the work we have to do. So one of the things I'm doing trying to have better hair, but my God, as a crafter and as someone who has a podcast, is I want to be very mindful of who I buy patterns from and yarn from. I want to be more, I want to buy patterns from people of color, so it's easy enough to do. Yarn is pretty expensive, so I do have a running list of dyers that I'm just itching to buy yarn from, to support them and also to enjoy knitting with their beautiful yarn. I follow many of these people on Instagram. There's this one dyer, Lady Dye Yarns, beautiful yarns, very colorful. There's Lola Bean Yarn Company. I love her yarns. She has this Georgia Peach line that's not always available on her website. I stalk these websites to look at the yarn, but I just can't afford it at this point. The Hat Danna pattern was designed by a person of color, the Ranunculus, and there's a Ravelry list of people of color dyers and pattern designers, and there's also an Instagram feed that I follow that I can put in the down bar, which highlights dyers and pattern designers, and then you can follow them and then you can support their work. And I also want to say it's really important, if you're supporting their work, to if you're going to share the pattern, buy an extra copy of the pattern. It's a very easy and indulgent way to support people of color and also your crafting habit. And it feels good, and it's, like I said, super duper easy, because there are lots of lists and resources out there that make it very easy for you to find these people. And I want to say that's about it. The chickens are doing well. I might just go grab Junie so you could see her for a minute. I'll be right back. You can look. Loves clover. Eat the clover. Yes, you go. Eat the clover, Junie. She loves clover. Isn't she gorgeous? Look at that face. She kind of looks like a falcon. You're on TV, June. Say hi. Say hi, little baby. Junie. I don't even know what kind she is. I think she's a bit of a blend. Anyway, she's doing very well. She's not ready to be with the big girls yet because they will attack her. And I am looking for a friend who's about the same size so that she can enter the rest of the flock with a buddy, because chickens aren't evil, but they're pretty intense about the hierarchy, and it helps to have someone else kind of defray the stress of having a newcomer join the flock. And Junie just doesn't understand that it's going to be that hard. We're building a new fence this summer, a new chicken run, which is the fenced area that they spend time in outside. And it's going to have taller posts and not netting on the top that droops, which drives me insane. But it's going to have some proper hardware cloth at the top. It's okay, baby. It's okay. You want more clover? Take clover. And so I'm thinking I'll also maybe make a little bit of a separate shelter in there for her. Just a small one. And maybe an enclosure just so she can have some space if they're not being good big sisters. Look at this face. Can you even handle how beautiful she is? What do you think, June? What do you think, baby? If you know chicks and chickens, they kind of nuzzle in and they almost fall asleep for seconds at a time. I'm not sure if they're actually falling asleep. I think they all are kind of. What do you think? She's so special. Okay, June and I say goodbye. Enjoy. I really tried with my hair. I just don't know what to do with it. I tried to make it look more presentable this time, but we'll just have to deal. Okay. Bye. Happy knitting. Happy crafting. See you later.